Okay, so I'm presenting today about how editing your wiki with Python is easier than you think it is. And the reason that I think it's easier than most people think it is that I don't see people talking about this very often. A lot of people write PHP scripts and bash scripts, like we saw last presentation, and very frequently I see people talking about this, but I don't often see people talking about writing Python scripts, except for PyWikibot. But there's a lot of libraries that make it very easy to do a lot of things. So I'm going to be talking about a couple of them, as well as a library that I recently published that makes a couple of things super easy to do. So about me, my name is Megan Cutrofello. I go by River most of the time in the gaming communities. I work for Fandom, and my home wiki is Leaguepedia. Our URL used to be lol.gamepedia.com, but recently we migrated all of the Gamepedia domains to fandom.com. So now we're at lol.fandom.com. Most of the time, I do a lot of stuff, a lot of coding on Wiki with Cargo and Lua, but I also write a lot of Python code. And I maintain a blog at river.me, and I post stuff about MediaWiki, like Lua, Cargo development, Python stuff, and I post at least every other Tuesday, so you can check that out if you find what I talk about interesting and want to read stories about development and stuff. So what do I use Python for? Well, the quick answer is literally everything. So a lot of cron tab stuff will be Python scripts. I have some stuff that fixes common editor mistakes. So if editors typically make certain mistakes, all of my wikis are public. So we get random editors will just make lots of incorrect edits all the time. And so if I can identify regular expressions to fix them, then I have cron tab scripts to fix these, such as date formatting and stuff. Creating subpages and tooltip pages, anything that's deterministic that I know has to exist once one page is created, anything that reduces the burden of knowledge that one editor has to do. If I can stop an editor from having to click a button after doing a task, and instead I can relegate this to a listener in cron tab and have my Python script do it, Python script's going to do it instead. There's a lot of caching stuff that has to be done because I do so much work with Cargo, where there's often a lot of really complicated caching stuff that has to happen in the right order, where one page has to be blank edited, and then another page has to be blank edited, and then the third page has to have the cache purged on it, and it has to happen in this order. So I could do that in JavaScript and then have someone click a button on the wiki, and sometimes I do that if it has to happen within 10 seconds, but if it can happen even with a minute delay, then that can just get relegated to a cron tab. And you can also do more complicated stuff because you're just writing Python code. So I create daily snapshots of Google Drive spreadsheets and then create stuff on the wiki with that. And maybe that last one is not easier than you think it is, but it's still not that difficult. Batch page creation. So this wouldn't be done on cron tab. This would be something where it's a script that someone runs when it has to be done on demand. But this is another thing where you want to have a script for it instead of someone doing it. And PyWikibot technically can do this, but then you're basically writing a script to populate a text file, and you might as well just write a Python script in the first place and then just populate their wiki directly. So use cases for something like this are if you have to do the same thing for a number of pages, or if you have to do the same thing at specific time intervals, such as every single year or every single month, every time you have to just keep creating something. Or if you have to do something across a set of a large number of wikis, maybe you want to copy paste this one cool new template that you made to all 15 of your wikis. A Python script is a great way to do that. So I'll just start at the beginning of this slide again.
Yeah, I think that works.
Okay. So anytime that you want to create a new page, so I'm just going to start from the beginning of the slide. I don't know if I was where I cut out or when I was representing, if I was just backstage or broadcasting. So yeah, pretty much anytime you want to do the same thing a bunch of times. And initially you might think like, okay, well maybe the cutoff is like, if I have to do something like 2,000 times, I'm going to use a Python script. And then you're like, all right, well the cutoff is going to be like 100 times I'm going to write a Python script. And then eventually the cutoff is like, all right, if I'm going to do something 5 times, I'm going to use a Python script. And then the cutoff becomes, if I have to do something twice, I'm writing a script for this. So the more you do this, the less tolerance you have for doing like literally anything by hand, and you start just doing absolutely everything with code. And then another use case is Discord bots. So Discord is a chat platform that has extremely friendly ways of distributing code over their API. So you can very easily make bot accounts, and there's a great library, discord.py, that you can use to basically deploy your Python code. And if you spin up a very cheap, small DigitalOcean server, you can host your Python code there, and you can have a Discord bot where you can just let anyone on your wiki run your code on demand, so they don't have to like know how to install Python or like run your scripts or anything. So this is like a fantastic way to distribute code. So this is another like really nice use case. So getting started. So some competing tools are AutoWiki Browser, PyWikiBot, which I had mentioned, and the replace text extension, which the Zelda wiki on Gamepedia used to use a lot. I don't really like any of these because writing Python scripts is just so much better and easier, as we will see. AutoWiki Browser can be nice just because sometimes it just like takes 2 seconds to set up a GUI and do like a really quick find replace. But what you can do with a regex is very limited because you don't get an actual syntax tree. And the same thing for extension replace text. And PyWikiBot, I don't love PyWikiBot. It does have a large amount of functionality, but it's I don't love it. I'll just leave it at that. So why Python? It's a high-level language. It has very easy syntax. It's portable enough. Some people, I guess this one's kind of debatable. Packaging up Python is not always the most fun thing to do. But these points don't really matter. Why Python? The answer is because Python has so goddamn many libraries. You can do literally anything you want with 0 lines of code because someone has already coded it for you in an extremely user-friendly library that you can just like close your eyes and write 2 keystrokes and then it's already done. So why Python? Because there's already a library that does what you want to do. So what libraries do I use? MW client and MW parser from hell. Yes, it's actually called MW parser from hell. These are the 2 most important libraries, and these 2 libraries are the reason that everything is so incredibly easy to do in Python. They just do literally everything for you. And then I have additionally written that I have recently released 2 other libraries that used to be a single library that was just like all of my stuff, but really it was it belongs in 2 separate things. So I have this like RPG class thing going where it's MW Cleric and MW Rogue that stands for okay. Yeah, so basically I used to have all of my functionality for like general MediaWiki stuff and my own personal wikis, well not personal, but like what I do for work specifically in a single library. But for like the past month and a half or so, I've worked on splitting it out. So MW Cleric is like a strictly general purpose MediaWiki library that makes a lot of stuff incredibly easy to do, which I'll demo later. Hopefully I'll have enough time to actually live demo it, but I also have some screenshots in the presentation later. And then MW Rogue is just specifically stuff for Leaguepedia and my other esports wikis. So that one is not really useful to anyone here. But MW Cleric basically takes MW client and MW parser from hell, which already make things incredibly easy and just make things like even easier. So let's rate Hello World. So I did this a couple days ago when I was writing my slide. And this is pretty much the code that you write to write Hello World. So it's 4 lines of code. It's showing up as 6 lines of code because it is word wrapping. So you import the library and then you set up the URL with the API path. You don't put HTTPS, it defaults to HTTPS, and if it's not, then there's like another line of you specify that it's not HTTPS. And then you log in, and then so basically there's 3 lines of setup, and then after you set it up, then you just write 1 line of code, which is site.pages hello.save world. And then you can see that we created a page called hello with the content world. So we wrote hello world, yay. A quick note about bot passwords. If you don't know what a redacted bot password goes here, a bot password is, if you've never worked with the MediaWiki API before, this is how you log into the API unless you have like something with OAuth set up on your wiki. I'm actually not sure how well MW Client supports OAuth. I think there's a PR open to the repo right now to make it support OAuth. I'm not sure how good its OAuth support is, but it may support it. So I have a blog post about bot passwords that you can read, but I'm not going to spend more time talking about it right now. So MW Parser from Hell is basically a library that builds an entire syntax tree of MediaWiki. So I did a demo when I was making my slides again. So I made a page that has these templates, and I wanted to demo something that you couldn't do with easy regex, but then it would have been like confusing to show in the demo. So you can pretend that like what we're doing is impossible to do with regex, and we'll just pretend that because it literally is building a complete syntax tree of the entire page. So the library doesn't actually care like what order the parameters come in. There could be like multiple blank lines. There could be like an entire other sub template as a value of a parameter in between, like whatever. It can deal with pretty much anything. So I'm just going to write a quick read-only script that's going to print out the values of the R parameter of the kittens template and nothing else. And to make this simpler, we don't even have to log in. So we're just going to use MW client to fetch the text of this page. And then we're going to filter the templates in the page to get only kittens. And then we're going to print cute and very cute. And that's what we're doing. And as you can see, the templates, I didn't actually make these templates on the wiki. We're just parsing text. And just is like a very loaded word here because it's literally making a full syntax tree. So here's another simple example. So we have the two imports, and then we have that same set up the site with the URL to the wiki. Okay, so so now we have so last time we saved the page. So this site.pages and then the name of the page is how we get the page object. And then I'll just like quickly go back. So last time we had that save method after site.pages hello, and this time we're going to have the text method. So still like very easy things to do. And this time we're going to parse it. And now we have a wiki text object. So the wiki, so can you see my cursor? You cannot see my cursor. I don't think you can see my cursor. Okay. Parse the text, and now I have a wiki text object. And then here's the 3 lines with some comments. And then you can see we print out cute and very cute. So we filter the template, and if the template name matches kittens, then we print the value of R, and then we get the param R, and then we get the value of the param object, and then we strip it. So when you get a template argument, or when you get a template value, you're getting like a param object, and then you have to get the value of the param object, and then you can strip the white space out of that string, and then you can print it. So you can like read the docs later. So here's just some quick documentation about all of the methods on template. You can add a parameter, so you can write to these. So the read-only ones are get and has, and then you can examine the name, but you can also edit the name by saying template.name gets whatever, and then you can add a parameter name and you can remove a parameter name. And I give you a link to the docs here also. So then the template modifier class is something in EMWCleric that I wrote to make all of this really, really easy to do. So basically there's like a very common structure that you would often do, or that I would often do at least, where I would connect to a wiki, and then I would like find all of the pages using a specific template, and then I would iterate through. So if you look in the like for template in wiki text.filter templates, oh, there's an underscore in filter templates that like got improperly copied into the slides from my IDE when I copied from my IDE and into the slides, and it like saved all the styles, but it deleted the underscore, I guess. So there's an underscore in filter templates. Yeah, so then filter all the templates, check if the name matches, and then do something. So basically I just like wrote a class that does all of this, and then you can subclass it and just do your one thing. And I just like, it just makes it incredibly easy to do whatever you want. So which I will demonstrate in a couple slides. So we have a goal to change the value of our template parameter on our entire wiki. I made a very simple example. We're going to change it from ASD to ASDF. And the name of the template is change me, and the name of the param is param1. And the white space, order of other parameters, none of this matter. Just so yeah, so this is like something that you can't really do with regex, because the name of the template could be like on a different line from the parameter. There could be like a ton of nested brackets or braces or whatever, because you could have like subtemplates as values of parameters in between or whatever. The whole thing could be like a giant mess. So really not easy to do. So this is the boilerplate code. It looks a little bit more complicated than what we saw before. And I also removed some imports. But the boilerplate code is what you write literally every single time. And the way that you can set up the boilerplate code is you should be using PyCharm as your IDE. If you're editing on a remote server, then maybe you wouldn't use PyCharm as your IDE because you can't do that if it's headless. But you should try at all costs to write Python code. And if you are editing on a remote server, then I would write your Python code locally, and then I would use Git, and then I would sync it to the remote server. And that's what I do because I have a lot of code on remote servers and stuff. So I would always write code locally in PyCharm. So create one or more live templates. And if you look at my presentation, I gave links to documentation on this in the speaker notes. If you scroll below the slides and look at the speaker notes, you can click to documentation on how to make live templates. And so you can start typing the name of one of your live templates and then fill it out with, and then just like press tab, and then you get the boilerplate inserted. So now look at how much code we have to write. Oh, look, it's done. That was so difficult. Wow. So we literally changed 2 lines of code, and then it was just done. So that's slightly unfair because technically, if you edit multiple wikis, you might have to change the name of the site also. So it might be 3 changes, but if you're only ever editing one wiki, then you can just fill that name of the wiki into the site in your boilerplate code. So it's either 2 or 3 changes. If you're just like doing a single parameter replacement, and your template modifier class may end up being significantly more complicated than this if you're doing more complicated changes. Like if you wanted to like change the name of a value and then also check to see if it has a value, and if so, remove it, and then also add a value, then you'd be like adding 3 lines of code or 4 lines of code, I guess, to update template. But it's like very easy. And then template modifier also has a bunch of optional arguments you can take, such as a page list or title list. Those are different things. If you want to give it a list of page objects or a list of strings to turn into page objects. If you want to only edit some pages and instead of every single page that transcludes the template, you can do that. Or you can like restrict it to a namespace, or you can have it like if you did half of the batch of pages and then you want to have it start halfway through, then you can give it a start at page and stuff like that. So and then when we run that, you can see that it just does the change. So again, pretend that this was like a much more complicated thing that you couldn't just do with a regex easily, but I wanted to like make it very easy to show up in the documentation here. So additional resources, I have some example repositories that you can look at. There's a help article on help.fandom.com called MW Client that has links to additional repositories that people put up using these libraries that are like meant to be used as examples. So you can also look there if you want to see other example repositories. Example wiki scripts still use it. So like I mentioned, I split my old repo into 2 separate packages that separate like general media wiki stuff from like my esports wiki specific stuff. So my old repo was just called river_MW client. So you might see that being imported in example wiki scripts. All of the code still works the same. It's just different imports. So if you look there, that's what you might see. And then links to documentation. I plan to expand the documentation on MW Cleric to like a full documentation. So for now, there's just a README on GitHub, and it goes over setup and stuff. And then you can also look at the tags on my blog, the Python tag, if you want to read more about how and why I use Python. So, okay, sorry for all of my internet sucks. I don't know, Hopin is oversaturated or whatever. So Brian sent me one question before, which was how much memory do these scripts take? And the answer is I have never ever looked, and I think it's basically 0. So if you're hosting a Discord bot and the bot is in like hundreds of servers, then you might need more than a 5 gigabyte, or you might need more than a $5 a month DigitalOcean server, which is more than 1 gigabyte of RAM. But my Discord bot is only in one server, and it is fine on the $5 a month plan.
I think that's it for the questions right now. Give it 1 second to see if anything new comes in. Oh, wow. Okay, so I did miss one. I'll just read it to you. Does PyCharm not have built-in SSH SCP-ing?
So it does, but only in the paid version. And I actually tried it, and it like was incredibly slow. It was like, I don't know if I had set it up wrong, but it just like was the most unperformant thing ever. So I wanted to try it again on my new computer, but I have not gotten around to it, and it's easy enough to just sync with Git. So, but yeah, so it does, but you need the professional version.
Okay.
And if you use VS Code, which I anti-recommend VS Code, I hate VS Code, you should use Sublime Text if you're using a text editor, and you should use PyCharm if you're using a Python IDE. But VS Code's remote development is actually pretty okay, but VS Code uses like infinity memory, and when you're using the remote development tool, it hosts all of your extensions on the remote server. And so if you're using a tiny remote server and there's not enough RAM, then it just dies, which is really sad.